Let me begin first with some strengths that I see very clearly. One is I think CEOs in Vietnam are genuinely very entrepreneurial. They have built their businesses from scratch and have seized on every available opportunity. Second, I think that CEOs here have learned to thrive in very difficult conditions. Vietnam has an antiquated infrastructure. Clearly there are government policies that still need to be streamlined, which today are quite inefficient and costly for businesses. And I think there's also a shortage of talent in Vietnam at many levels in the organization. I think thirdly, they have huge ambition. So when we talk to CEOs in Vietnam, they actually express their ambition in terms of the size of their company, not necessarily in terms of size of revenues or profits, but in terms of the number of people that they've lifted up and have carried along with their enterprises. I talked to one CEO who said, I want to have 1 million employees working within my company. And fourth, I think there's an openness and a willingness to bring in best practices, to adopt these practices and to place them into their companies. I'm not sure how many that is, I think that's 4, but maybe I'll move to areas of development. And I think actually, interestingly, some of these areas of development relate back to the strengths that I just enumerated. For instance, I think there's a propensity of CEOs in Vietnam to invest generously outside their core businesses. And we see that, I think a manifestation of that is the investment in real estate that we see in the associated real estate bubble that we're working our way through right now. I think a second challenge is that many of these CEOs take a very active role in all decisions in their company. And so I think that points to weaker governance and less reliance on the full management team, which will be important as companies begin to respond to competition in their markets or go internationally. You really need to have all individuals sensing the market and feeding that information back up to their top teams. And in organizations where all the decisions are held tightly by the CEO, companies tend to be less flexible and adaptive to change around them. I think a third area for development is probably over-reliance on quick solutions to very difficult management problems. I've heard many times people will say, well, my team doesn't perform well, so let's put in a new KPI system. Unfortunately, usually the performance issue runs much deeper, and KPI is only one of many solutions that are required to address that issue. And maybe fourth weakness is probably, and this is probably an important one because it relates directly to how competitors see your home market. I think Vietnamese CEOs are much more pessimistic about Vietnam than the foreign competition is. Foreign competition is very lucid about the challenges of operating in Vietnam, and yet when we poll CEOs across the region, they say very, very directly that they plan to at least double their presence in Vietnam. So the competition is coming, and I think we need to reflect on that fact and be prepared for that competition to arrive in our home market.
I think that the first message is to learn the rules of the new game. That's critical. Learn the rules. Secondly is to hire people and service companies that know the rules to help you learn the rules. Training within your company so that people in key positions know what the rules are. That's the first thing. Second thing is that CEOs should discuss with each other and reach out to other segments of society. Business, labor, academia, education, media thought leaders, and the government to explain and help others understand what these rules are and to gain support for implementing these rules within the Vietnam context. And the third thing is keep in mind the challenges. And the two key challenges for Vietnam are, one, join the international supply chain and the manufacturing sector. That's really important. And second is that the government and business together with other segments of society need to discuss and implement laws, regulations, and so on that are applicable to the business reality, that are based on the international commitments, the new rules in the AEC and the TPP. I think if you can do those things, you'll be successful.
Thách thức đối với Việt Nam, đối với CEO Việt Nam thì tôi nghĩ là chính phủ, nhà nước phải là người đứng sau lưng hỗ trợ và tạo điều kiện kinh doanh. Nếu mà CEO Việt Nam mà muốn đi cạnh tranh với các CEO của thế giới trong một cái sân chơi bình đẳng thì chúng ta thấy sẽ là thua thiệt. Mà cái này chỉ có nhà nước, tôi nói thật. Chỉ có nhà nước, nếu nhà nước không có hỗ trợ, không có những cái phương án để mà hỗ trợ CEO thì CEO Việt Nam sẽ tự bơi lội mà ra giữa dòng, sẽ mệt mỏi và tự đắm.